It's October. I've been watching a ton of horror movies, and it just dawned on me. I talk about it all the time. I love horror comedies and I love slashers. Those are my two absolute favorite go-tos for horror. And, you know, it's something that even though I've talked about probably every single one of these movies at some point, I've never really put an entire comprehensive recommendation list together for horror comedies, things that, underrated. You've probably missed them. And, there's definitely a couple on this list that I know they've been getting talked about a lot more recently, especially this year. But there's stuff that, as you're starting into getting into movie collecting and horror, everybody's on a different journey. You might have missed these altogether. So the majority of this list here, I'm pretty sure, have flown under the radar for most people. If they haven't, if these are movies that you're fully aware of, they're on your list, let me know in the comments down below. But then give me a recommendation. Give me something that is not on this list that maybe I don't have or I've never seen. Let's dive into this. And I did actually rank these. It's something I never really do. I went from, they're all my favorites. I love them all. But I went from least favorite to my absolute number one, the one I have to go to every single October. And it's something I watch multiple times. And definitely have to watch it on Halloween. So that's how we did them this time. And I don't know, it's new for me. I've never done the ranking system, but let's dive in. At number 15, we're talking about Sundown, the Vampire Retreat. Now, this is a great, fun, campy horror movie that stars Bruce Campbell, David Carradine, and Emmett Walsh is in this one. And, he just passed away this year, and it's just a very, he's pretty much been in great movies my entire life, but in this one, the opening scene, he plays a vampire. He's covered up in these goggles to protect him from the sun, a giant sun hat, and he has to go pump gas for this guy that he's just not a fan of. The guy pisses him off, and he tears his head off. And what it is they kind of live in this land, they call it purgatory, and it's supposed to be kind of a protective safe zone. They're not supposed to be killing people because they don't want to bring attention to themselves, and they're trying to make this synthetic blood. And it's just a very fun film. There's a whole group of vampires that don't want to have any of it. They want to take over purgatory and just eat people, and they don't want to have the fake blood. And this is pretty much just a Western. It's a vampire Western comedy starring Bruce Campbell. Great film. Really enjoyed it. Highly underrated. Very campy. And I know it's not for everybody, but I thought it was great. Number 14 is Fido. Now, this one here stars Billy Connolly. He plays the zombie. This is something that if you've never seen it, it's just an overall fun film. And in this, it's like this future kind of thing where everybody has zombies, and they figured out how to live with them without having the zombies attack people. And then they put collars on them, and then they use them like pets and stuff. And, you have zombies mowing the lawn and zombies delivering milk. And this specific one, zombie is named Fido. So he's pretty much like a dog, but a zombie. There's a neighbor that has a zombie for adult pleasures, if you will. And so it's just kind of, it's a whole spoof on the zombie genre. I really just loved it. I thought it was great. But then, it hits the fan when Fido here, his collar messes up and he actually eats somebody, attacks somebody, and then they become a zombie, and it kind of starts that whole spiral. Then the people in charge, they're looking for him. And, oh man, I thought this was just an absolute fun ride. It kind of has that 50s feel, but really enjoyable movie. High recommend. All right, and at number 13, we have a classic dark comedy, Society. Now, this is something that it has some great body horror. And, if you've never seen it, this is, there's a teenage boy, and he finds out his entire family is involved in this elite cult orgy type thing to basically maintain their status, and they feed off the poor. And it's just this wild, definitely a dark comedy. And so it's something that, again, I don't think it's for everybody, but something that I enjoy revisiting once a year. If you like that gross out stuff, I think the special effects in here are just top notch, but high recommend. And when I mean body horror, like you can see on the cover, they kind of merge themselves into each other. And so it's kind of gross, but oh man, just an overall fun film. Number 12, we have Jack Frost. Now, this is something that I put off for so many years. I remember seeing the movie poster when I was a kid and or younger at least. I don't remember exactly when this came out, but it's something that I really enjoyed. but I put it off for so long because the movie poster was like, it looked really crappy. Now, this is just a cheesy, fun horror comedy, but it's something that, the movie poster, I just felt it was going to be not campy, but like really crappy, like a really crappy independent B movie horror, something that I wasn't into. And, you know, this is ended up being really fun. I loved the monster effect in here, the snowman, the suit, like everything about this I thought was just really great. And the whole reason I even found this is I was watching something else and they had clipped in this trailer from the movie, and it was Shannon Elizabeth. So she's taking a bath, and then the snowman comes in and gets her, and that scene is very memorable. But it's just it's so dumb and funny. I really enjoyed this one. And then the snowman monster suit, I think, is just top notch. It made me laugh more than anything because it kind of looks fun and innocent and cute, but then he's killing everybody. But if you haven't seen it, Jack, he's a serial killer. There's this crazy accident that, kind of the leaks on him, and it turns him into this snowman. He was on his way to his execution. So then everybody's aware that he is a killer, and they're trying to get him, and the body disappears. And so they're looking for him, but then he comes back as the snowman and goes on this murderous rampage. High recommend. Really goofy, really campy, but I love it. All right, number 11 is My Boyfriend's Back. Now, this is something that came out in the early 90s. I love this one. I've been watching it for quite a while. Really enjoyed it. And if you've never seen this, it's just fun. So you have this loser kid who's really in love with the star girl in the school, and he asks her out on a prom, and he also accidentally dies. So she says yes, he dies, but then he comes back because he wants to take her to the prom, and then the entire town just is okay with him being a zombie. I mean, well, they're not okay because they're afraid he's going to eat everybody, but they like treat it like no big deal. He goes to school, and they're like, they treat him differently because he's a zombie, but then they also don't care, kind of, until somebody starts dying. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. It's goofy, a whole different take on the zombie genre. Love this one. High recommend. So 10 is something that I have not been a huge fan of a lot of the modern films, and this is something that it flew under the radar for a lot of people, but I caught it. I'm kind of into these movies, and what really stuck me was I remember being a kid growing up in the 90s and hearing that, the satanic panic stuff and everything attached to like Dungeons and Dragons. My mom was big on the, don't do it because that's for the devil and like that whole thing. So the satanic panic stuff kind of hits home for me, and that's what this entire movie is. And so it's called We Summon the Darkness, starring Alexandria Daddario, and Johnny Knoxville's in this one. But it's a very dark comedy, and it has to do with this like giant mega church, and then there's these like Satanist occultists that are doing these ritualistic murders and scaring the entire country. But then to save the day is this giant mega church who's speaking out against it. And there's a twist in here. I'm not going to ruin it, but I absolutely love this one. And it's just another fun movie. And so you have, normally you don't have the killers being women, but you have women being killers in this one. And it's just, I really enjoy this one. High recommend. It is a modern film, so I haven't been watching it all that much, but I've revisited it like 3 times now and really enjoyed it. This is one here. So number 9 is one that I love. Joe Dante directed this one. Dick Miller's in this one. I think this is Dick Miller's last film, but really enjoyed this one. Anton Yelchin's in this one. Another Alexandria Daddario movie. So Anton Yelchin, got his girlfriend. She's kind of a jerk. His cousin doesn't really like her. Nobody really likes her. She comes across as, just not really even a mean girl, but like somebody that you don't even want to associate with. And so he meets Alexandra Daddario. She has this yogurt shop, and they kind of have this like connection, but then his girlfriend is jealous and pissy, and they don't even eat the yogurt. So they had that like chance meeting, but then as he wants to break up with his girlfriend, she dies. And so as she dies, he then has the freedom to go, pursue Alexandra Daddario and have like a nicer relationship. But his ex-girlfriend comes back to life, and because they never officially broke up, she tries to still be with him, and she also knows that she's a zombie, and it's one of those things that I thought was great. I've watched it, the very first time I found this a couple years ago. I've been watching it every single year. High recommend. I try to get everybody to watch this one, but just an overall fun movie. Now, number 8 is something that I've been watching since I was a kid, kind of. Now, this particular one I didn't find until I was like a little bit older teenager, but the very first movie, so this is the sequel, the very first movie I've been watching since I was a kid, and then they based a cartoon series off of this movie here, and so I watched that cartoon series as a kid. So I was definitely familiar with this entire thing very early on, but this is something I've been watching since I was a teenager, and this is the better of the two. So the first one there has its fans. It's very campy. It's a little wild. But the number 2 is probably the better version of the movies, and I really enjoy it. I highly recommend it. And we're talking about the Return of the Killer Tomatoes. Now, this one here is just awesome. Absolutely love it. You can't go wrong with this movie, I don't think. It's campy. It's goofy. It's, got the horror vibe. And everyone's afraid of tomatoes. And so the tomatoes are going to kill everybody. And there's an evil scientist that turning people into tomatoes. And so it's just one of those things that it's got the sci-fi, the camp, the horror, everything I love. It's just rolled into this one. And for me, I would say it's like a feel-good comedy. And again, another one, I know it's not for everybody. It's tomatoes killing people, but just an awesome, fun movie. Highly recommend you watch it at least once. At number 7, we have The Final Girls. Now, this is just a great movie I've been watching for the past couple of years. It's a newer horror comedy, and it's something that it's definitely different. It's, so I've never really seen a movie like this, and I just really enjoyed it. And you have Tasia Farmiga. She plays the daughter of this, I forget her name, but you forget this girl. I'll put it in later, but she was a horror actress early on before her daughter was born, and she's still trying to be an actress, but she's not really breaking out into Hollywood. And so pretty much her claim to fame was this horror movie where she dies in. Well, then in the real life in the movie, she dies. And so you have Tasia Farmiga, who's kind of dealing with that. But then at every turn, everybody that realizes that's her mom, they talk about the movie, and in the movie she died. So it's like that double punch, and it just kind of, she's reluctant to be part of that. She doesn't want anything to do with it, and she's kind of missing her mom. But she gets dragged to this screening of her mom's movie, and an accident happens somehow, and some sci-fi goes on, and they get sucked into the film, and now they have to, one, she gets to see her mom again, but then they have to kind of get out of the situation and finish the film without dying. And it's just, I really enjoy it. I think this is just a top-notch, fun horror comedy, something that every single time I pop it in, I die laughing. High recommend. Coming in at number 6 is Slither. Now, this is just something that, when I found it, I thought it was absolutely amazing. So James Gunn directed this one. I think he wrote it as well. But really great cast. Michael Rooker plays the main character who gets kind of attacked by this. This entire movie is kind of like The Blob. So this alien thing comes to Earth and it gets attached to Michael Rooker, but then he starts infecting all of the other townspeople, and this is weird hive mind, and there's crazy body horror, but I absolutely love it. I think it's hilarious. I die laughing every single time, but it's got that goofy horror rolled into body horror. So if you're not really into that, I totally get it, but this is something that I revisit regularly. High recommend. Number 5 is Chopping Mall. Now, this is one of my all-time favorites. I absolutely love it. Now, I point out all the time that the movie poster does not match the actual what's going on inside the movie. Now, you have killer robots, and if you look closely, you can see some wires hanging out of here, so it has that thing. But I always saw this movie poster and just had that, horror monster vibe, and it's really not. So you have this awesome robots that are killing everybody in a mall. For years, I thought Joe Dante did this film, and he didn't. It was actually Jim Wynorski, and so it's just something that I saw Dick Miller, this type of film, the way it was shot, everything. I just always assumed it was Joe Dante, and it's not. So to give credit to Jim, he wrote it, he directed it, and something that I've revisited for many years, but I absolutely love it. And you have these robots that are for the mall security, and they get these like military chips, and that's why they start killing everybody. But really enjoyable, high recommend. It's got the camp. It definitely is an 80s film, so it has that whole 80s vibe with campiness and the horror and these kids trying to get out of this mall alive because the zombie, or not the zombie, the robots are just going on a rampage. At number 4 is Tucker and Dale. Now, this is something that I've been watching pretty much since it came out. And for years, like, nobody was really talking about it. And then just this year alone, I've heard an explosion of people talking about this film. And I'm so glad that more people are finding it, because it is a high recommend. I watch it multiple times a year. If you've never seen this one, you have Tyler Labine and who's the other guy? I forget the other guy. He plays hillbilly, and him and his friend, they're going to this cabin in the woods where they have the cabin for hunting and fishing, and they're hillbillies, they're not that intelligent, and then you have these city kids that are coming up, to go camping, and so they kind of cross paths. But then the kids heard this horror story where many years ago these hillbillies, like, they killed all these people, and so they have that horror story in the back of their mind. But the hillbillies just want to do their life and have no problem, and then the Tyler Labine's character falls in love with this blonde. He kind of thinks she's great and he wants to talk to her, but then the kids are scared of them because of the hillbilly story. And as the movie goes on, a lot of accidents happen. There's really no villain in initially in the beginning of this, and so all these kids start dying, and I absolutely love it. All right, coming in at number 3 is The Stuff. Now, this is something that I talk about all the time. I absolutely love this film, and so I'm not sure why it never made any recommendation list, but this is something that I highly recommend, and I found this a couple years back. I love this movie poster. Now, this is the Arrow video release, and so this is what the movie poster is, but that original movie poster looked like this, and so a little bit more creepy, and I'm not sure if that would have got me into watching the film. But at the time when I found this, I think it was on sale in the Arrow video. You had to like get a couple movies, and so you got this like special price. I think that's how I got this one, because it was a total blind buy. And oh man, it's just a fun horror comedy, and it has this just this whole thing on the spoof on the marshmallow fluff. And so this is, the substance comes out of the ground. It tastes really good. So they start packaging it and selling it, and everybody's just super addicted to it, and they start eating it. But then once they stop eating it, the fluff kind of takes over their body, and then it ends up killing them. And then the fluff is like chasing people. So then it almost has this like blob type element where it's like going through the walls and the stairway. But I think it's fun. There's a little bit of body horror in here, but not too bad. But overall, I just think it's a great, fun horror comedy. Definitely a dark one. Coming in at number 2 is high on a lot of people's list, but this is it's another one that I found on my own. I remember, back when I was a kid in the 90s, I was watching this one, like, it would always come up. The two things that came up a lot, around Halloween time, spooky season, was, it was the end of summer. Like, Tremors would have like this movie marathon where TBS would be playing like these commercials all the time. Tremors, like pretty much, I think most of them. And then they would play that kind of the end of summer, and then rolling into Halloween, into the fall, TBS would then do things like Critters and Killer Clowns from Outer Space. And so I remember the trailers for this all the time. Absolutely love this one. And, when this had the Blu-ray, I had to get this version. So this is a UK import, and it's actually region locked. So I had to get a region free player to have this movie. And then very recently here in America, we got the 4K version of it. So I've had this movie for a couple years, and I revisit this regularly. I think it's funny. I don't think you go wrong with this film. It's just one of my all-time favorites. So, the clowns, they're aliens. They come to Earth, and they're basically turning people into cotton candy, and there's a cotton candy gun. But overall, full of great special effects, campiness, and you can't go wrong. The name is in the title. Killer Clowns. They come to Earth to kill everybody. I love it. It's great, and it's a high recommend. Number 1 on my list is a movie that I found it, many years ago at the video rental store. I was probably in my early 20s, late teens, and something that I've been watching ever since, and I want more people to watch it. I think it's great. Now, I know you know, the age I am now, being in my 40s, if I was to watch this for the first time, I probably wouldn't connect with it as much because, you know, the whole main characters here are all teenagers. This movie came out over 20 years ago. We're talking about Idle Hands. I absolutely love it. Now, this is the release from Shout Factory. So this right here is the original movie cover. You can find this on VHS. I've seen it at thrift stores, DVDs, and the other Blu-ray. I think there's another Blu-ray like this as well. But this is the original movie cover, and that's how I saw it the first time at the video rental store. I was like, okay, I like Jessica Alba. This looks like a zombie movie. Let's find out what's going on. Well, it's not a zombie movie, but one of my all-time favorites. And so you have this, it's called Idle Hands because there's this demon that transfers to, you know, pretty much like the laziest person in the world, transfers to their hands, and then it starts killing people. And, you know, the whole devil, you know, Idle Hands is the devil's play toy kind of bit. That's what this is. But, you know, you have Devon Sawa's character. He's super lazy stoner, but the demon hand goes into one hand. It doesn't go into both. And so he's he doesn't know he's killing people. And it's just a really fun movie. I really enjoy this one. Seth Green's in this one, but you have that early performance from Jessica Alba. And I just really enjoyed it, and I've been revisiting it every single year since I watched this for the first time, but I highly recommend it. And it takes place on Halloween or during Halloween because there's jack-o'-lanterns. They go to a Halloween party at the high school. So it definitely has that whole Halloween backdrop nailed perfectly. So this is a perfect movie to watch on Halloween, but a high recommend. Let me know if you've watched any of these, if you love them, which ones were your favorites. But if, for whatever reason, there was something on your list that you want me to watch, let me know. For more movie recommendations, check out this video right here. But with that, watch a movie today, and I'll catch you guys next time.